Welcome to Conversations. I'm Muqtadar Khan, your host, and we've been talking a lot about the protests, the Gen Z protests that are going on in India. But let's take a look at what's going on in the Gulf. For the last 10 nights, the United States has consistently attacked Iran, targeted its infrastructure, is destroying bridges, has even hit a desalination plant. And Iran has continued to respond, hitting U.S. military bases all across the Middle East, especially concentrating on the bases in Bahrain, in Kuwait, in Jordan, also Qatar and UAE. Apparently, in the last 10 days, in Iran's retaliation, over 100 American soldiers have been injured, some of them quite seriously. Apparently, more than 400 of U.S. servicemen and women are seriously suffering from injuries and are basically very serious casualties. And of course, three American soldiers, one woman and two men, have died. So there is a serious, a bit more somber mood here in Washington. The Pentagon is asking for $67 billion more to continue this wage. And Donald Trump faces a very serious question, as the price of oil now has hit $93. In America, at the gas station, it has hit $4. But I want to make this thing very clear to all of you that when you see in the market, so for example, let me share with you what the Brent oil price right now is as we speak, because the markets are open already in Europe and East Asia. So I'm going to share the screen with you about the price of oil. For the world, the price that really matters is Brent oil that you see here. Brent is 92.45. It has gone up by 20% in the last 1 month as a result of the memorandum of understanding which Donald Trump has signed in the Palace of Versailles when he was in France for the summit, the G7 summit. The price had come down and oil was at $70, very close to the pre-war price. And that's why you see a 20.9% hike as a result of this incessant bombing that the United States has been doing for Iran. And Iran, in retaliation, has hit U.S. bases and also blocked the Strait of Hormuz. The traffic has stopped. The latest development is that Iran is also threatening to close the Bab al-Mandab, so the Red Sea axis, where about 7% of the global oil transfers. And if the Houthis are successful in completely blocking that, and there is some whispers that Iran might do something about the Suez Canal also, if that is done, then we are probably looking at $160 per barrel very quickly oil. That should completely send the entire global economy into a recession, as it is this year. Most countries are going to show much lesser growth rates in their economies than what was predicted before the war. But let me also share something else with you, which is important. So, for example, people are saying, so why is the price of petrol or gas at the pump so much more higher? Like, it's already reached $4 here in the United States. So why is that so much higher? And for that, there's something else that you need to understand. It is called crack spread. Apparently, I didn't know about that until last month. And that is a very interesting thing. Crack spread is the cost of converting crude oil into refined oil. So for example, if you buy 3 barrels of crude oil, 2 of them are converted into petrol and 1 is converted into diesel. So it's called a 3-to-1 crack spread. And apparently, before the war, the cost of converting 3 barrels of crude oil into 2 barrels of petrol and 1 barrel of cylinder was $20. And so now, let me share that with you. It is $69. So you can see the crack spread 3-to-1 in the last 6 months. It was on January 23rd, before the war, it was around 20 something. And then it went down. In February 3rd, it was $23 for 3 barrels. So it's like saying that the gas, if the oil was costing something like $70 or $65, then 1/3 of that would be $8. So it is roughly $73 after refining. But now it has gone up to 69. That is July 17th. 69, which means divide that by 3, you have 23. So add 23 to 93, so 96 plus 20. Wow. So right now, the effective price of oil is at $116 per barrel. Now, this is something is what is worrying Republicans. They feel that Americans are going to punish the Republicans for the cost of flights. Summer is a very important time for Americans for driving around on vacations, etc. In fact, I was considering myself driving all the way to Minnesota. It's a 20-hour drive, and if I took the Tesla, then it would be it would be cheaper. But if I took the other car that we have, SUV, which would be, then we would be spending a lot of money on gas. But if it's more than one person, then that's cheaper. So I can see someone here, Paramjit Singh, is saying it's $3.99 in Florida. Yes, but in other states like California and Washington, it will probably be already close to $5. So yes, Americans are going to pay a lot of money for gas, and it's really going to irritate. And remember, I keep saying this again and again, that if the price of oil goes up, price of everything goes up, because everything is transported by trucks and buses and trains and planes. Airline flights tickets will go up, train tickets will go up, even eggs and milk is going to go. It's going to have an inflationary impact on the economy. Donald Trump says that he doesn't care about the midterm elections in November, but in private, he's also paranoid that if they lose both the House and the Senate, he might actually be out of office, perhaps even in jail. His family is going to be investigated endlessly for the corruption that they are indulging in right now, making literally billions of dollars off the White House. But nevertheless, the cost of the war is going to be endless. The countries that are going to suffer profoundly more are all the Gulf countries and Iran, and of course, to some extent, Israel and the United States. So what's going to happen? Donald Trump has two choices. Either he accepts the conditions that Iran has offered and go back to the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, which means that you end up giving Iran $24 billion upfront, and then Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz, and then basically the U.S. withdraws from the region, a complete U.S. surrender to Iran. That's one option. The other option is to continue this fight. The countries that are mediating, Qatar and Pakistan, have come up with a new proposal of a 10-day ceasefire. So what they will do is a 10-day ceasefire, which will immediately open the Strait of Hormuz, and then the two countries can continue to discuss terms and conditions to get back to the to the original Memorandum of Understanding, the so-called Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding. The Israelis have been leaking to the press that this request has come from Iran, but it doesn't make sense, because if Iranians agree for this 10-day respite, then the pressure on Washington will disappear, and immediately the price of oil will simply drop from 93, 94 that it is back to 70, and then Trump can then continue to brag, and then 10 days later, the United States will again start bombing Iran. So the Iranians feel that they need to have sustained pressure on the U.S. and global economy, so they might be reluctant to move ahead. But they have said that they are willing to consider that option if only it is commitment by commitment. That means that the U.S. makes a commitment and then withdraws. Already, apparently, the Israelis are the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. I think it should be called IGA, Israeli Genocidal Army, is withdrawing from the south a little bit. We will see what will happen going forward, and in this deal, and so the United States right now faces two options: whether to go ahead and agree to the terms and conditions and go back to the Memorandum of Understanding. I'm not very sure whether Iranians would accept a 10-day ceasefire to discuss the original terms of that ceasefire. And there is this proposal that they will have a middle path on the Strait of Hormuz, which will allow commercial traffic to travel without tolls. And that's Donald Trump's primary concern right now, is to open the traffic on the Strait of Hormuz. Uh, they can open it with tolls, which means maybe the oil will not go back to 70 or 65 and maybe at 73, 75 because of the tolls. Or maybe the companies which are selling oil may decide, okay, we'll take we'll cut some profits because oil companies make a lot of profit. They'll just reduce the profits and absorb the cost of the toll. And so we go back to where we were in January with regards to oil supply as well as cost. See, the double trouble that we are in right now in the global economy is not just the cost of energy, it's also the supply of energy. There is a shortage coming soon once the strategic reserves of both China and the Western countries, which have contributed to it, end. So Donald Trump has these choices that he's facing, or continue for a forever war. And let me tell you that the United States has lost every forever war it has fought. It lost a forever war in Vietnam. It lost a forever war in Afghanistan. Quite spectacularly, the Taliban are back in a more aggressive way than they ever were before. And Iraq is not in any better space. America failed with all its agenda. Yes, ISIS was destroyed in Iraq and Al Qaeda has been diminished, but that should have been what the goals should have been, and they shouldn't have fought forever wars. In fact, if the US had not invaded Iraq on spurious grounds, we would not have ISIS to begin with. So an attack on Al Qaeda in Afghanistan, that should have been the goal, and that would have been very quickly ended, and the US would have won the war. But unfortunately, we now have three endless wars that we fought, forever wars, which we have failed to achieve our political goals, and now we are into the fourth one. This war was supposed to end in 4 to 6 weeks, and it's gone on for more than 4 months, and there seems to be no end in sight. And all the promises that Donald Trump made in the beginning of this campaign, none of them have been achieved. So the US is also preparing, by the way, for a massive assault on Iran. They have transferred a lot of new fighter jets, have moved into the region. They have also moved many refueling jets. America has lost 1 or 2 of those. So yes, the US is paying a lot of heavy price in the cost of the war and loss of equipment. So when Hexit claims that only $37.5 billion have been spent on the war, it's not really true. He's not calculating all the money that we have spent defending Israel. He's not calculated the weapons transfers that have taken place to Israel during this war. He's not calculated the cost of all the equipment and the damage to all the US bases. Some of the US bases have become uninhabitable. The pictures that Washington Post and New York Times have shared about satellite pictures of the destruction of US bases and antennas and expensive equipment in the region, none of that is being factored at all. And unfortunately, the Republican Party is spineless when it comes to Donald Trump. They're not even asking tough questions about the cost of war, because Hexit wants another $80 billion to prosecute this war. So the US is looking at a very hefty bill. Remember, last year, we didn't have $30 billion to extend the Obamacare premium for healthcare, and millions of Americans are suffering from lack of healthcare or very expensive healthcare, which is causing bankruptcies among seniors. So there is a domestic huge crisis as a result of this war. The money that we are spending to defend Israel, in fact, Americans are now dying to defend Israeli hegemony in the Middle East. That money could have been used to advance the welfare and healthcare of Americans, and we aren't doing that. So anyway, the war seems to be continuing, and the mediators are trying very hard. The Qataris and the Pakistanis. We'll see what will happen. So far, nothing has happened. We have had 10 nights of incessant attack, and Iran is beginning to escalate also in its responses. It is so fascinating that nobody in the Republican Party is publicly asking the question that needs to be asked. If Donald Trump has been bragging that we have destroyed Iran's military capabilities, its missiles, etc., then how is Iran able to still attack US targets? Apparently, the attack in Jordan was quite devastating. Not only 2 people died and nearly 100 got injured, but a lot of helicopters were destroyed and a lot of equipment was lost. there in Jordan. So the U.S. is suffering as a result of Iran's retaliation. And how is that happening if we have destroyed all their capabilities? And why is the Strait of Hormuz not open if we have destroyed Iran's military capabilities? And now Donald Trump has promised to attack that particular Peaky Mountain or whatever that is, under which Iran has apparently moved centrifuges. This is obviously Israeli intelligence. Israel is very lucky. They have lots of billionaires who help buy American politicians' conscience, and we have an idiot in the White House who listens to their bullshit and believes it. It's a very, very safe. The man doesn't have a learning curve at all. Can't he realize that everything Netanyahu told him in February was a lie on February 11th? But, well, that's how money plays a major role in American politics. It destroys the conscience of our politicians first, then it destroys their intellect. So they become zombies, and they do whatever the people who are giving them money ask them to do. Anyway, we will see what's going on with the Iran-Iran war in a couple of hours. For those of you who are watching from India, I will be sharing my assessment of what's going on with the Gen Z rebellion in Delhi. The Modi government seems to have only one response. They don't believe in accountability. They only believe in brutality. So they're responding to this demand by students who are in despair with brutal use of force by the police of Delhi. So anyway, thank you for watching Conversations. Please subscribe to the channel, like this video, press the bell icon, and don't forget to share this with your socio-political network. Until next time, I'm your host, Muqtadar Khan. Take care.